Okay, President Biden invited the top 4 leaders from the House and Senate to the White House today to discuss border policy changes within the larger umbrella of the president's $100 billion national security plan. For more on this one, let's bring in Rena Shaw, Kurt Bardella, and Denise Grace Gitsom. Rena, let me start with you on this one. We've been talking about this supplemental aid package for months. Getting aid to our foreign allies has seemed to have been top of mind for the president. Why today is he just now hosting this meeting, and what do you make of this timeline here?
Well, the timeline sort of tracks with how the Biden administration does everything. It feels like it's 11th hour. Let's make a decision to take up an important matter when there's no route forward. And I think this was, of course, Senate leaders pressuring the administration to put these talks together. I feel that President Biden is getting weaker and weaker when it comes to how he liaises with Congress. He started out very robust in his first few months in office, really wanting to broker deals. And now it seems like he's just kind of waiting for things to come and happen to him. So I don't have much faith that this meeting will produce much. I do think Schumer is at the wheel. Of course, we know all 11th hour governing in D.C. will produce a result. Nobody wants a government shutdown, least of all Speaker Johnson, of course, over there in the House. This would be egg on his face if he can't get something done with the White House. And so, of course, we're going to see something get done. But I say this, do not trust Biden to be in the front seat anymore. He has proven weaker and weaker as these talks have moved forward. And a meeting happening at this point in the game is proving that.
But Kurt, it's actually Republicans, wouldn't you agree, that are showing signs of weakness anytime we know that any type of stalemate would be negative on Speaker Johnson. And once again, we could find ourselves in the situation where we're trying to nominate another Speaker of the House. Did Mr. Biden simply wait until he had players at the table who could actually make a deal?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that part of the reason why we've seen the president take a more passive approach to Congress is because, as we have seen, the House of Representatives has been embroiled in its turmoil of its own making for the better part of a year now. There's been no one at the negotiating table to negotiate with. And every time that a proposal gets put forward and they think there might be an agreement, Speaker Johnson goes back to his caucus loses their mind, and then Johnson has to back out of said deal, said agreement, said spending caps, and then they're back to square one. We didn't even get the top line negotiating items about the immigration package until the other day from the Senate Republicans, Ray Lankford, who's been negotiating that just came out. So the reason why this is happening now, it has nothing to do with Biden being weak. It has to do with Republicans just haven't had their act together.
Yeah. Denise, what do you make of all this? And what's your confidence level in the idea of major change coming from today? I mean, I just don't seem to have faith that either side is going to make such major concessions just because they're in a more intimate setting in the Oval Office today. What say you?
Well, it's an election year, so I'm confident that everyone's going to do what's in their best interest. And so it's something we can all agree on. And maybe I'm the only one that sees the silver lining in this, which is the fact that they're still trying to solve this problem, right? At least in theory, they're still talking. And whenever you get fewer people in the room, people who can actually make decisions, Kurt, you and I have both worked on the Hill, and we understand that when you get behind closed doors and get away from the cameras and less of the grandstanding, you're more likely to see results. And so maybe I'm just overly optimistic. Time will tell, but if immigration isn't solved as part of this problem moving forward, Biden's going to have a lot more pain on his hands. It's the #2 issue for Republicans. It's one of the top 5 issues for all Americans. It's dragging his approval ratings down in the same way that Republicans have liabilities that they have to deal with and problems they must solve. Biden has a lot to lose here as well, and Republicans have been consistent about what they need in order to move forward with Ukraine funding, which Biden needs so desperately, and we should all support. So I'm actually a little more optimistic.
Speaking of funding, Denise, I didn't want to cut you off there. Absolutely. But senators overwhelmingly rejected Bernie Sanders' effort to investigate potential human rights violations in the Israel-Hamas war. What does this vote say about how the U.S. sees the conflict in Israel? And I'm going to jump right in there and ask you, Rena, because one of the situations that we notice is that Mr. Biden is getting a lot of pushback from Democrats saying, hey, the genocide that they're calling it in Gaza needs to stop.
Well, in serving 2 Republican members of the House back in the early 2000s, I myself saw the same stance I see today on the Hill. It's be pro-Israel at every turn, at every pivot, have their back. And look, that's another segment. We can talk about why that is. But I'm disappointed in this administration's leadership. Biden and Blinken, I think, do not again have a plan. And when they get criticized is when they act. And they've been criticized by a large swath of Biden's the people who are in the demographic voting for him. A lot of Muslim Americans are pretty upset with how we continue to have Israel's back when they're taking actions over there that I myself have a problem with. Look, I'm a pacifist at this point in my life. I don't want any more war. I want hostages released, and I want innocent people not to die. And I don't want the United States to have anything to do with it. I agree with Senator Bernie Sanders here. There's not much I agree with that senator on, but I will say porting U.S. dollars over for conflicts that we really shouldn't have a hand in. At some point, we need to ask ourselves, how much are we going to be allies with somebody that is taking actions that are hugely critical? I believe that Israel's response to what happened on October 7th is controversial. I do not believe in Netanyahu's leadership, and I think a great number of Americans have also expressed that, who are Jewish American as well. And so let's just see what happens, but don't trust Biden and Blinken. That's all I got to say about that. And listen to the American electorate that wants to see their taxpayer dollars stay home instead of going over to conflicts that we should have no part in.
We also know Senator Elizabeth Warren, who also supported this idea of stopping U.S. aid to Israel, said Prime Minister Netanyahu has to understand he does not get a blank check from the United States Congress. Kurt, the Senate obviously voted 72-11 to table this conversation from now, but that 11 did send a message, right? I mean, how strong is that message, and do you agree with this tactic?
Well, I think that it's very clear that the president in general has problems with his left flank at this point. Now, there are some who would say that if the left is unhappy, then everybody else is actually feeling pretty good. It's kind of been interesting watching this dynamic of at times Biden gets more support from some Republicans about his posture over in the Middle East than he does from his own flank. So, I mean, there are a lot of political realities, as Denise rightly pointed out. It's an election year. So it's really important for the president to maintain the support of his base. He has zero chance of getting reelected if he loses the left flank base, and he's going to need to turn up. Because one thing we do know, say what you want about Donald Trump, his base is enthusiastic to show up and vote for him. And if Biden's base is wavering in any way, that spells problems in November.
Okay. Got to move on to the very last topic while we still have the three of you here. And I'm interested to get your takes on this one. An ex-CloudFare employee, Cloudflare, I should say, she's going viral after filming her firing and posting it to TikTok. And this video has gone gangbusters. She says she's received messages of people telling her they wish they had stood up for themselves the same way she did when they were getting let go. So the question here, is this something that more people should do? Denise, I'll start with you on this one. Is it a good idea to film your firing just in case things go haywire? You think you have a case of, being wrongfully terminated on your hands? How do you take this story?
You guys are going to think I'm an old fuddy-duddy, and I'm going to just betray my
own age. I haven't heard fuddy-duddy in a long time.
There you go. I'm in my 40s, and so maybe I just have a totally different perspective on what it means to have the privilege of having a job than the generation beneath me. I made the mistake of wasting 9 minutes of my life that I'll never get back by watching this viral TikTok. And what I understand is that there just doesn't seem to be any sense. Look, the HR people kind of messed it up. Let's be honest. Like, they didn't give her a good reason for why she was being fired. But the presumption that anyone is owed a job and that their opinion of how they did in that job should be justification enough for holding a company's feet to the fire. Look, these companies are not charities. If you're performing, they're going to keep you, or unless they have other reasons not to. And we're not always privy to those reasons. What she should have walked away with was a sense of humility, trying to figure out how she could do better in the future, and maybe saying, this isn't a good fit for me either, and I don't want to work for a company like this. But to put it on blast like that without any sense of self-awareness just seems to be a very troubling trend. And I hate to say it, but of a generation that doesn't seem to appreciate as much what it is that they have to bring to the table, and really the benefit, the responsibility of having a job in this market.
Denise
I hear
has
that
King
argument.
Fuddy-Duddy at the table here. Definitely.
We're bringing it
What I'm
back,
telling you,
Denise.
I completely
That'll be my
agree
Chiron from
with
now
you.
on. Fuddy-duddy.
Fuddy-duddy and fuddy-duddy number 2 here, because Denise, I agree with you. I just feel like there is definitely a disconnect between the younger generation and what they feel as though they're owed, and those of us who actually had to work. You had to come in. You had to actually do your job. But Kurt, I'm going to turn that to you, because I think there is a situation where so many people feel as though this is the only outlet that I have and I need a way to sound off. Is it okay then to record this conversation and like Denise just said, put it on blast?
You ever see the movie Up in the Air, by the way? This is what this whole situation kind of reminds me of. It's the plot of that. You need to see this movie to appreciate the story on some level. First of all, it's an excellent movie with George Clooney and Anna Kendrick. I don't have a problem with, per se, recording the actual being fired. I have a problem with releasing it worldwide. I think, having that as a record could be beneficial depending on the circumstances of your termination. I do think that the company here screwed up. Like, when someone asks, why am I being fired? You should probably have a good answer. I think that's just general hiring, firing 101.
Right.
But the problem that this is so short-sighted, because this woman now, forever, whenever she applies for a job, said hiring manager is going to Google her, and this is what they're going to see, that this employee not only recorded, but released it. It just shows a lack of judgment, a lack of long-term planning, and going for that instant gratification moment on TikTok. And yeah, hey, for 5 seconds, you're a star. A million people are watching you. Guess what? A week from now, no one's going to give a crap, and you're still going to be unemployed.
Boom. Boom. Zinger. Okay, Rena will give you the last word here. Also, she's come forward and said she's gotten some offers in the wake of this video. Rena, how do you think other companies around the world are looking at this as she's looking for a new job now?
How do companies do better? Public shaming. I think this is great. I think this is why I love the internet. I think there are people who make choices that I probably wouldn't make, but good on her for protecting herself, recording that. Yes, HR screwed up. Corporations are not always people too. They're concerned with profits and the bottom line, and they don't always look at people as people. There's a human element here. We're not automatons, and I think she did the right thing. I mean, I wouldn't have done it, but look, if it gets her more job offers, gets her the attention she wants, isn't that what we live in anymore, a click society? So look, I have no problem with this, and I love it, and I hope more people do it because it's sort of entertaining.
Okay. I think those takes ran the gamut there. I like it. That's why we had y'all on.
Denise and I will go somewhere and just have a bourbon and fuddy-duddy talk together.
Yeah, fuddy-duddy together.
Fuddy-duddy talk.
Rena, Kurt, Denise, always good to see the three of you. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.